Welcome to Looking at Legal Stuff. Today we have 4 hearings, including an intense new update, in a case with a couple where dad claims mom and her sister have taken their boys and gone on the run with them and are now homeless and living in an Oxford house. He claims that he and his current wife are supposed to have custody, and he's pissed child support wants money from him due to their aunt applying for TANF. He also claims mom has been driving them around with no driver's license or insurance. Mom says that the children actually ran away from Dad's house and managed to find her on the streets. She says they are living with her, going to school, and not getting in any trouble with the law. She says she's been sober for nearly a year, and she admits she was driving them without a license, but she says she had no choice and that she has her license now. But of course, that's just the beginning of this messy situation, so let's see what the judge thinks.
Next, I have Jedediah Knuth and Kimberly Bender. Cause number 243145-08. Looks like both parties are present. All right, give you a moment to get settled. All right, and Mr. Knuth, do you pronounce your last name? Is it Knuth?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Mr. Knuth is present. Ms. Bender is present.
Yes.
We're on today this is a motion brought by Mr. Knuth for a temporary parenting plan. Looks like the records show that Mr. Knuth served those documents upon you, Ms. Bender, on or about March 28th. Did you receive a copy of his motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then I reviewed your submissions, Mr. Knuth, and I also reviewed your submissions, Ms. Bender. Just kind of in summary, there's concerns related to Mr. Knuth raises concerns related to not seeing the 2 boys for roughly several years. He's concerned. He raises issues of SUD, neglect, withholding, and raises issues of SUD or alcohol or drug issues. You indicated that you've been in IOP since July of last year, that you're in a clean and sober living, that you're working part-time, and then it sounds like you have another child, Iris?
Yes.
Okay, and that's not Mr. Knuth's child?
No.
That's okay. And then you're concerned about domestic violence, assault, and SUD evaluations, and the like. So I think that's kind of just in general, kind of the feel of some of the issues that the parties raised. Obviously, there's much more. So I'll hear from you, Mr. Knuth. This is your motion for temporary parenting plan.
Okay. Kimberly and her sister have taken the boys while they were on the run and failed to inform us, as me and my wife have been raising the boys for the past several years. I was a single parent before we got married, and we've been married. This summer will be 5 years we've been married. And the boys have lived with me the entire time. And failure to inform me when you pick up the children and take them to a neighboring county, I feel is not acting in an appropriate manner of a parent concerned for the child. And
when did that happen?
Approximately
Approximately
January
of this year?
Yes.
Okay. And have the boys remained with Miss Bender since that time?
I don't know. They have not. Gunnar has not been home in a while, and Odin was home for a while, and then Kimberly was driving him around without a license, specifically his court over at the juvenile building. And I currently have Division of Child Support and Longview School District both breathing down my neck over Gunnar because Kimberly's sister, Erin, who has custody of our oldest child, Haley, is trying to get child support for Gunnar when, if Kimberly is not going to be the one raising Gunnar, I was under the impression state law required you prove me unfit in order to have a third party raise my child.
So right now, Ms. Bender's sister has custody, or that's where Gunnar's living right now?
As far as the Division of Child Support has informed me.
What's your understanding? Where is Gunnar living?
Not where he should be.
And where is that?
I believe that he should be residing with me and my wife.
Okay. Is Odin living with you? Where's Odin?
The last time I seen Odin, he was with Kimberly while she was driving without a driver's license to take him to a court for some of the shenanigans he pulled while on the run.
Okay, so the best of your knowledge, Gunnar is living with his aunt
Correct.
and Odin is living with Ms. Bender.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And so your request in your parenting plan is that you be named custodial parent and that Ms. Bender have second and fourth weekends supervised to clean UA 24 hours before and a valid driver's license.
Correct.
Tell me some of your thinking why that's your request. Give me a little more detail of what you're asking.
She has not been able to consistently call the boys around like holidays. I mean, if you have issues and things you need to work on, I made a request that she try and call the boys once a month and just spend a few minutes on the phone with them so that we can avoid things like reconciliation that you were discussing with a prior case. If you call and have a conversation and prove to me that you can be consistent with that, I'll skip the courts and let you have visitation. My family's into kayaking and fishing. Meet us at the lake and spend an afternoon with your children. And that was not something she was willing to do. And she wasn't willing to call consistently and have conversation to prove that she has corrected the issues that she is claiming that she has been taking care of.
So your position is that prior to January 2024, there was no contact between Ms. Bender and the boys?
Correct.
Okay. And then did you see, what's your position related to Ms. Bender? Ms. Bender submitted information related to being an IOP and clean and sober housing. What's your position related to that?
Once I managed to get her served, which I asked for an address to serve her at when she took Gunnar to his juvenile court, she refused. And I managed to get a mutual acquaintance of ours to serve her, and I never got served anything back that she was responding to the court.
Okay, you haven't seen the response of Ms. Bender?
Correct.
Okay. Could I just address that briefly with you, Ms. Bender?
Yeah.
You submitted some information related to your position, where you're at in life. Did you send a copy of that document to Mr.
No, I didn't know I was supposed to. I'm new to this parenting
Okay.
plan stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we addressed that point. So what happens that Mr. Knuth submitted some documentation, his motion, submits to the court. I read it and he sends a copy to you. You read it. And so then you have an opportunity then to respond to the court, which you did. You sent it to me and I read it. And then he needs to have Mr. Knuth needs to have an opportunity to read what you're saying. So that way you get to read what he says and he gets to read what you say. And then we come here and then everybody's informed. So we're kind of a little bit short circuited here today because we know what Mr. Knuth is saying. I know what you're saying. Mr. Knuth doesn't know what you're saying. And so that would be important for us to know before we move forward. So right now, can you tell me what's your position as far as where Gunnar is living?
Gunnar and Odin are both staying with me. They go to my sister's during the day while I work, and they are enrolled in school. Gunnar and Odin are both doing excellent. They're not running away. They're not getting in trouble with the law.
Okay.
I did go a period of time without talking to them, but I was on drugs. I've been clean and sober for almost a year, as a matter of fact. Like I submitted, my CPS case with my daughter is reunification this summer. I'm an outpatient. I'm in clean and sober housing. I'm working part-time. I have 2 drug and alcohol mentors. I'm in parenting classes. And I did drive Odin to court because I had no other transportation, but I do have transportation for future.
And you're residing in the Portland area?
Yes,
Okay, and are the boys enrolled in school there?
no, they're enrolled.
Okay. And they're doing online school?
No, they're doing in class.
Okay, okay. All right, so this kind of highlights that the concern that I have is that you're sharing this information and Mr. Knuth is hearing this for the first time, right? And so he needs to be served with a copy of the documents that you submitted. And then he has an opportunity to digest that and then we can move forward. So there's a couple ways we can approach this. One is maybe one option is to make a decision today kind of on imperfect information. All parties haven't received all the information and digested it. That's one option, is to move forward today and make a decision. Another option is to continue the matter for a period of time, allow you time to serve Mr. Knuth with your documents. And if he wanted to send a reply, he could submit a reply and to the court and to you. And that would occur at a later time. So those are our two options. So Mr. Knuth, this is your motion. You did serve timely. So we could move forward today with kind of the situation we're in, or we could set it over a period of time and allow you to receive and read what Ms. Bender is saying.
I have two things that I would like to say, but we got distracted with me not getting served. Number one, as of last week, the boys were both still enrolled in LVA as I went down to try and tell when the school district of Longview tried to come after me for truancy, I gave them the case number for the detective I'm trying to get custodial interference charges on and told them, I cannot do anything unless you can make this detective return the boys to my possession.
Is there a current parenting plan in place?
So, long story, try and make it short. In 2013, I got sentenced to 18 months in prison. Kimberly signed custody of the boys over to some relatives, and I went with my mother, who was in the courtroom. She got custody of the boys from the relative that she had signed custody over to. And then once I proved, I believe it was 6 months of holding the job I had in work release and living with the boys, then she signed custody of the boys over to me while Kimberly was not in the picture. I currently have the Division of Child Support for Washington State telling me that Erin, Kimberly's sister, is claiming TANF, so they would like to go after me for child support on Gunner. Both boys are currently enrolled in, as of last week, we're currently enrolled in school district. So I really questioned how they were able to get them enrolled in school district without unenrolling them. And with the sister having custody of them, according to the Division of Child Support, that's not legal, as you have failed to prove me unfit.
So there's no parenting plan in place.
There is no parenting plan in place. I was under the impression that me getting custody returned to me after I got out of prison, while Kimberly was not in a position to attend court or be an active part of the children's lives, was all I needed. I didn't understand until dealing with this situation that we had to get a parenting plan. I thought a custody order was good enough.
Okay, so it's just kind of the historical pattern is what you're relying upon.
Yes.
Okay. So then I guess going back to my initial question related to the two options moving forward today with kind of imperfect, short-circuited process, or setting it over, giving you opportunity to have Ms. Bender serve you with the documents.
I would like to get this handled in a timely fashion, as Ms. Bender's sister, who she's claiming the boys reside with during the day, has not been a good influence on Gunner's older sister, who happens to have a drug problem. that follows the path of her mother and her sister and her mother's sister.
So when you say timely resolution, kind of still begging that question of whether your position is to move forward today or set it over, it'd be 2 to 3 weeks.
I've already, because someone refused to give me an address where I can serve them, I've already been forced to set this out over a month, as the local police department here and Vancouver refused to be responsible for serving Kimberly, as she is notoriously hard to find.
Okay, so you want to proceed today?
Correct.
Ms. Bender, as far as your position, do you want to proceed today, or do you want to give the papers to Mr. Knuth and come back in 2 to 3 weeks?
It seems like he wants to proceed today.
That's his position.
My position is I can get proof from the schools saying that they are enrolled. I don't know what else he would want besides what I've already said and what I've already put in.
Okay.
What I've already submitted, I'm sorry.
Okay. I think that this is what I feel comfortable doing at this point. Historically, it sounded like Ms. Bender has struggled with drug addiction issues, and Mr. Knuth has been the one raising the boys after he was released from prison. And then now that Ms. Bender is doing better, she has the boys as roughly from January of this year. They're still in her custody. There's some dispute of whether they're still enrolled in, but the import of that is that they're living with mom or living with Aunt Erin, I guess. So we have kind of those competing interests of kind of a long-standing residential practice of the boys being with dad for roughly 3 years, mom doing better now and having the children with her. And the best interest of the children is squarely at issue at this point. So there's several issues that I don't have a lot of information on. As far as Mr. Knuth raises issues of neglect by Ms. Bender, withholding of the child, which is kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure how that fits, because of the withholding would say that I guess he's been withholding it since January. That would be your position, and lack of emotional ties. I'll get to your question in a moment. And then Ms. Bender, your position is that you're doing better with your drug addiction. You're clean. You're still working through a child dependency with your younger daughter, and you want some evaluations done related to assault and DV. So there's a lot of things that remain kind of unaddressed and really not fully spelled out for me, that I think I think I would benefit from having our family court investigator dig in a little bit to get a clearer picture of your position, get a clearer position of your viewpoint, and then come back in. It would be a fairly quick turnaround time, and I'll double check to see if Ms. Schaefer's on the line. She is.
I'm here, Your Honor.
Ms. Schaefer, do you have I'm contemplating appointing you to do a pretty rapid investigation. Obviously, it's not going to be extremely in depth. It's more kind of just to get basic parameters and get the points on the map, if you will. I'm not sure if a time frame of 3 weeks, and I recognize probably for Mr. Knuth, that seems like forever. However, I'm just thinking 3 to 4 weeks, how that works with your time schedule and your workload, Ms. Schaefer.
Today is the 24th.
So probably May 22nd.
Would I need to have the report to the parties by the 15th for consideration, or?
Probably by the 17th, as long as they have it a few days before.
I can make that work.
Okay. I think I need that. I think that's important in this, where there's a lot of historical information. There's some new information related to schools and the well-being of the boys and the like. There's also the issue, and it sounds like the boys are going over to juvenile. There's mention of driving them without license and the like. So the boys It sounds like there may be some involvement at the juvenile department. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the family law investigator.
Okay.
She will be reaching out to you via phone or email, and I just want to make sure that we've got good numbers for you. So, Mr. Knuth, I'll just verify with you, or Ms. Bender, I've got a phone number ending in 10
Yes,
and down in that is it a Vancouver address?
Fourth.
Yeah, that's what I have
Yeah.
here. Okay, is that a good address?
That's a mailing address, yes.
Okay, but the phone number is valid.
Yes,
She can contact you there.
yeah.
And then Mr. Knuth, as far as you, I've got a phone number
Correct,
and you're on 25th Ave.
correct.
All right, so she'll be reaching out to you, and please respond promptly to her and to share and get back with her, and she'll set up interviews and talk with you, and then she'll get a report out prior to the hearing on the 22nd. And then we'll be back here to just we'll hear the motion of the parenting plan. Mr. Knuth.
The boys have been residing with me for considerably more than 3 years. I believe my mom just pointed out that 11 years. It was 2015 when I had the boys living with me.
Okay.
So 9 years without having visitation rights with their mother.
Okay. Significant issues remain to be addressed, and so the family court investigator will dig into that and talk to you and others, and then we'll be back here on the 22nd to hear the motion that was brought by Mr. Knuth.
Is there any way to get stiffer sanctions put on people for committing child endangerment by operating a motor vehicle with a minor in it?
Anytime that there's concerns related to child safety, the options is that individuals can contact CPS if they feel there's an immediate danger to the child. If they feel that the law is being broken, a person can report that to law enforcement. So those are two options.
On the incident when Kimberly showed up at Odin's court date, I pointed it out to both Cowles County Sheriff, Longview Police Department, and was told by CPS that it's not their concern. But the safety of my child needs to be someone's concern. And if it's not Child Protective Services, who Kimberly and her sister have sent after me the last time, 3 out of 4 allegations had already been investigated with unfounded, and the 4th one was deemed not to be illegal. And now I have the police department and the county sheriff telling me that protecting my children is not their priority. They're not willing to risk their badge to arrest somebody for operating a motor vehicle without a license with a minor in the vehicle.
So those are the two options that I'm aware of. So we'll be here on May 22nd to address the issues that the parties raise. So everybody, yes,
May 22nd at what time?
9 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll see everybody then. Thank you.
I get that phone number
Of
for contacting Kimberly so that if I need to serve her with more documentation, I actually have a way to arrange it.
Yeah, the document, it's she listed it on her pleading. All right, we'll be in recess. We'll see everybody on May 22nd. Thanks for your input and help.
Your Honor, Jennifer Schaefer, Family Court Investigator, is also here.
Yes, ma'am. And let's start with Ms. Schaefer.
Yes, Your
Written
Honor.
Reports, what do you wish to tell me?
This was a tough one, as there are some concerns regarding both parents that I think need to be brought up as concerns. Mom is 1 year clean and sober, but has not had any contact with the children 3 years prior to this. The oldest son ran away due to child abuse, and was on the streets for 10 days and was able to reconnect with mom's side of the family. And both children have ran away from home and ended up in mom's care currently. I do have concerns about where the children should be, and I'm actually requesting that a guardian ad litem be appointed to kind of follow this case, as I was unable to get CPS records, all the school records, with such a short turnaround time.
So as far as you are aware, the kids are currently residing with the mother?
With the mother in an Oxford house with plans to move in with her sister in Vancouver. They are currently enrolled in school under the McKinley-Vento Act. And up until recently, mom was transporting the kids without a valid driver's license and insurance 2 times a day back and forth from Portland to Vancouver, which was also concerning. But I've learned that she has since passed her driver's license test and now has a valid license. I'm still unsure if mother has insurance for them to be transported in the car back and forth.
Mr. Knuth, is there anything you wish to tell me?
I'm highly concerned with issues that I brought up regarding the aunt where she's dropping them off in the day to catch the bus to school. And I don't understand how the act that she referred to is for children listed as runaways. They were not listed as runaways when they were enrolled in the school there. And there is concerns because the aunt that the mother is dropping them off with allowed my daughter to, who was the older sibling in this case, not one of the two involved. And I think with the fact that the boys have lived with me for the last 7 years to all of a sudden have zero contact, and what she's referring to as child abuse was already investigated by Child Protective Services and deemed unfounded.
And Ms. Schaefer, have you got any information on the boys at school attendance at this point?
Oh, I have started receiving some of the documentation. I haven't had that much time to go through it as it's still all coming in because it's coming from one of the children is under an IEP. So you're getting records from the IEP person, you're getting records from attendance, that type of sort of thing. But to answer Mr. Knuth, it was also because they are considered homeless currently is also why they're able to be under that McKinley-Vento Act.
And best information you've got as far as school attendance? I
Is
realize
that they're attending, yes. They're extremely
Okay.
behind in credits and not working at a grade level, but they are attending.
All right. Ma'am, is there anything you wish to tell me?
Yes, I do have my driver's license now. I am getting insurance today. I have no idea where this thing is coming from. There's never been a police report or any kind of evidence with that. The boys are still going great. I mean, they're going to school. Everything's good.
So are you living in an Oxford house right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And are the kids actually staying with you at the Oxford house?
Yes.
And are you intending to continue at the Oxford house or move?
No, I'm gonna move in with my sister.
I'm sorry?
I'm gonna move in with my sister,
When's that supposed to happen?
like the next week.
How long have you been at the Oxford house?
I've been there, almost a year.
Okay. And why are you moving out?
To be with family support, because my sister lives right next to my mom, and they're my main supporters right now.
All right. Well, we do need to get a guardian ad litem appointed. And who would the next ones be?
Beth Willows, Heather Kale, and Anne Hyde.
And sir, you have any preference amongst those?
No.
Ma'am, how about you?
No, sir.
The first one listed was Ms. Fellows, and we'll appoint her. And did you hear what I was telling the people prior about go out to the clerk's office, get the contact information? And both of you need to get in touch with Ms. Fellows right away.
I have one more question.
Give me just a second. Yes, sir.
At our last court date, I asked for a method to serve Kimberly because the method I used the first time will not work again. Using members of the community that we've both known for over a decade. When I asked for a way to serve her, I was given a mailing address. And then I filed a motion, but didn't hear back on it in time to serve Kimberly via signed for mail. Can I get that just clarified that if she's not going to give me the address where her and the children are residing, that I be allowed to serve her via certified mail?
Yeah,
What's the,
he can serve me by mail. It's fine.
okay, at the aunt's address?
No, at the address that I'm at now. You have pen and paper.
And if she's planning on moving out of there, that's going to be a temporary solution, not a. It would be really nice to know where my children are. And
Okay, at this point, if it's the Oxford house address, it stays that until there's a new address. You understand that, ma'am? So you're gonna have to arrange for somebody there to make sure you get the paper.
Okay.
Okay,
And with the guardian ad litem, I only make $800 a month. Is there like a waiving fee?
Well, that's my next question. We'll get to that. So
Okay.
do you have the Oxford House address?
Portland, Oregon, 97206.
9-7.
206.
And with that being an Oregon address, is there anything special that I need to do to get her to do the service by mail?
No,
Okay, I know for the in-person, there was a different process if you serve in another state.
understood. No, you can, from this point forward, mail any paperwork you need to serve her with to that address. So ma'am, if you move out of there, it's your responsibility to work something out with the Oxford House so you get that mail because it's assumed
Okay.
that you received it. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. So sir, are you employed?
Currently, I'm a stay-at-home parent.
You're,
A stay-at-home parent.
okay.
I will be changing that in the near future, but
And you said you're making about 800 a month?
Yes, and I have to pay rent with that. Now I have to pay car insurance out of it also.
All right, so right now, this is gonna be paid by the county, but that's gonna be reviewed. Obviously, as we go along. So you both need to be aware of that.
Okay.
Okay. And June 26th then for review, when we've got some information from the GAL. So I can't emphasize enough, both of you need to get that contact information out of the clerk's office. Contact Ms. Fellows immediately, understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Next matter I have is Jedediah Knuth and Kimberly Bender. This is cause 243-14508. We have Mr.
Yes, Your Honor, this is Beth Fellows, guardian ad litem.
Thank you, Ms. Fellows. We have Mr. Knuth is present, and then we have Ms. Bender is also here. This is a review hearing, and let me just pull up my notes on this. So the family court investigator submitted a report as of May 17th, 2024, where she detailed some facts that she's saying are present. And then Ms. Fellows was subsequently appointed, I think at that same time frame thereabouts, or there's a recommendation that she be appointed on May 17th, and she's been subsequently appointed. I haven't received any information from her as of yet. I think her report is due end of August sometime, August 28th. So we're here today for, I guess, kind of a interim review, check base with Ms. Fellows, hear some feedback from the parties. I'm not seeing any particular motions have been filed by either party. I know that there's concerns, both parties have concerns about the other. So maybe we could just lead off and hear from Ms. Fellows, and then we can hear from Mr. Knuth and Ms. Bender. Ms. Fellows?
Yes, Your Honor. I was appointed on May 22nd. I did get the contact information from the family court investigator for the mother. I sent out the intake packet. I have received it back from the father. I did call the mother to get her actual address and did talk to her a little bit and then sent out the intake packet. I have not heard back from the mother or received the intake packet back yet. So I'm kind of at a standstill. What I can say is I've also done a review of Odyssey. There's quite a bit of criminal history on both mom and dad. Some of the information that the family court investigator provided to me about the boys, Gunnar and Odin, there's a lot of concerns and there's a lot of investigation that needs to be done. I'm actually asking for a 30-day review to be set for July 31st. Due to the holiday, I pushed it out a week. So we could kind of check in again because I haven't heard from mom. And so I'm kind of stuck there. She's there in the courtroom, not sure why I haven't heard from her. The intake packet has not come back, so I'm thinking that she got it. That's kind of where I'm at, but there are a lot of concerns that I need to investigate. So I would have to say that an August date, I would have to push it out. But again, I would like to have that review on July 31st, just a 30-day review to check in.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fellows. Maybe Ms. Bender, maybe I could ask that question of you. Did you receive the intake packet, and what are your plans to get that back to Ms. Fellows?
I did receive it. I have it with me right now. It's filled out. I don't know where to turn it in at.
Ms. Fellows, where would be the best place to get that to you?
The address is on the intake packet of my office. I am here now, so after the court hearing, you can swing it by.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Mr. Knuth, any comments on Ms. Fellows' report or comments?
I have a couple of concerns. Number one, I understand that Ms. Fellows is waiting on information, so her hands are kind of tied at this point. But as we haven't done our interview, I expected her standpoint to be, we need to look at this at a later date, so that we're in agreement on. On top of Father's Day being this month, all three of my kids with Miss Bender are birthdays this month. As I've raised these children on my own from 2015 until January of this year, I would like to know what it would take to get phone visits until Miss Fellows has time to complete her investigation. And last time we were before you, you told Miss Bender that she needed to provide me copies of the documents she served you. And I still have not gotten those. Those are my three concerns, things, subjects, topics that I wanted to bring up today.
Okay, thanks. Maybe we can just go in reverse order. Ms. Bender, as far as documents that you filed, are you making sure that you're not only filing them, sending a copy to Ms. Fellows, but also sending a copy to Mr. Knuth?
Honestly, I forgot, so I will do that.
Okay, that's really, really important
Okay.
because the system only works when both parties know what the other party is saying, and the court knows what. So do you have an address where you can make sure Mr. Knuth can get those documents?
Send it to the 217 25th.
Still in the same house I was in
Okay.
many moons ago.
All right. And then as far as phone visits, Ms. Bender, do you have any insight or opinion on that?
I don't mind phone visits. That's fine.
Mr. Knuth, do you have suggested times, frequency?
At least once a week. And since the children in question are 14 and 15, going to be 16 the end of the month, the children should be allowed to pick the time between, say, 4 and 8 o'clock at night. They can pick the time and day as long as it's at least once a week.
Okay. I'm fine with the phone visits. I'm fine with the phone visits. I think it's, you know, I don't want to unduly limit it. I would say up to 3 times a week, but again, kids are kids and they're busy. And so, you know, what their schedule is, but I think up to 3 times a week, I don't have any issues with that. I don't have any sense that Mr. Knuth is going to abuse that or it's going to cause any harm. You know, I don't have any concerns about that. So between 4 to 8 p.m., 3 times per week, whatever that you kind of agree upon. I can set specific dates if you can't all agree on a particular date and time, or the kids, if it would be helpful, we could say, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, something like that.
Can we say if it's consistent, the children pick the dates, and if it's not consistent, we will review it at the 30-day review for Ms. Fellows' information?
Ms. Bender?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's fine. Okay, so Ms. Bender, you're going to get documents to Ms. Fellows. You're also going to get documents to Mr. Knuth. And then the phone visits, I'll just do just a brief bench order related to that, so that's clear about the phone visits. And then there was a third item you said, because we addressed 2, and I'm not sure if we addressed, oh, you talked about the review on the 31st.
The fact that you appointed an investigator who said it was too complicated for the timeline they were given, and then Ms. Fellows was appointed. And since I haven't done an interview with her, I assume she hadn't done one with Kimberly. And then Ms. Fellows brought up the lack of packet.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that review. In drafting this order regarding the phone calls up to 3 times a week, do I specify the time, or just to say it's at a time chosen by the children?
Chosen by the children works.
Ms. Bender? Okay. All right, thank you for your patience. The order reads, petitioner Knuth may have up to 3 times a week phone visits with the minor children at a time chosen by the children. This order may be reviewed at the next hearing on July 31st, 2024 at 9 a.m. So I'll give a copy of that to each of the parties, and we'll set the matter over to the 31st of July at 9 a.m. For review. And it sounds like Mr. Knuth is following through with the GIL, so I appreciate that. And it sounds like Ms. Bender is going to be following through with the GIL, getting her information, and so the GIL will be in a position to provide some detailed information come the 31st of July. Any other items from you, Ms. Fellows? Then we'll check with Mr. Knuth and Ms. Bender.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Knuth.
Not at this time.
Okay, Ms. Bender. All right, well, if you come forward and get a copy of the respective copies of those orders, and then we'll see you on the 31st of July.
Good day.
Your Honor,
Yes, Ms. Fellows?
if I may, I have a doctor's appointment at 10:40. If we could call the Knuth Bender matter, I would really appreciate it.
Sure. That's fine. We'll call that matter now. This is the Jedediah Knuth and Kimberly Bender, 243-14508 is the cause. We've got Mr. Knuth present and Ms. Bender's present. Good morning. All right, and so we're here to hear from, under my understanding is we're here to hear from Ms. Fellows to hear, she filed a report, I believe, is on May 17th, 2024. And
No.
and then Ms. Fellows, are you giving an oral update?
Yes, that was not my report. That was the family court.
Oh, Ms. Schaefer's.
investigator. Yes.
Right.
You had set this for just kind of a review, given that just kind of what had happened with the kids. The kids were placed with mom. Mom was supposed to be moving in with her sister and stuff like that. So you just kind of wanted to have an update.
Yep.
So I have met with both parents, and I have done a home visit with the boys and mom, and they are living in Vancouver with mom's sister, Erin, and the boys are doing really well. I had good conversations with both of them.
Remind me of their ages.
They are 15 and 13.
Thanks.
And they are delightful young men. They definitely spoke their mind. They are happy and comfortable and feel safe with their mom staying at their aunt's, again, up in Vancouver. There are a lot of concerns with the dad. There is a video that the older sister had taken back in June of 2023 that shows with dad being physically abusive, basically holding the older one, Gunner, down on the floor and hitting him and yelling at him and screaming at him. And so I have concerns about that. I have concerns that the boys ran away earlier this year, and the older one was on the run for about 10 days before he was able to hook up with some people who knew where Aunt was and was able to connect with that. Both boys have basically said they do not want to go back to see dad. They really don't want to see dad, especially with the stepmom, Ashley. They do want their belongings back from their dads. There's also phone contact that is.
Ms. Fellows, I apologize. Mr. Knuth has his hand raised. Mr. Knuth, the way we're going to proceed today is each party will have their time to speak. And then if you have any particular items you want to hear about or want to address, just make sure you note that and then tell me about it when it's your turn. Thanks. Go ahead, Ms. Fellows.
There's phone contact as ordered by Your Honor 3 times per week initiated by the boys. When I went and did my home visit, they thought that it was supposed to be initiated by dad. So they said that they would initiate it. They did. Actually, the younger one, Odin, did. Gunner does not want to have contact with dad at this point in time. So I do have concerns. And I've told both parties this, so both parents know this, that I'm asking that there be a DV evaluation ordered by the court for dad, that there be collateral contact with the GAL to include the video from June of 2023, that the phone contact continue to be initiated by the boys, but be up to 2 times per week, that there be a time for the boys to get their belongings. Dad wants the boys to come to his home to gather their belongings so that there is no question that they are getting all of their things. The boys do not want to see their stepmom, Ashley, so I am requesting that Ashley not be on the property. I would like that to be facilitated within the next 2 weeks, and I would be there as well to help facilitate that. I would like there to be just a short little interim review in 2 weeks to make sure that that happens. I also would like to have the court write an order that I can access the sealed files from the third-party custody matter regarding the older daughter. There are some sealed files in that matter that the dad would like me to see. Apparently there is a psychological evaluation on mom and just some different things that I think would be beneficial for me to have access to. I did call Clark County and they said that they would need to have an order from Cowlitz giving me the ability to access those sealed files. I also have, I've actually received the DCYF records. It's 1,141 pages. I peeked at like 1 or 2 pages, so I have not gotten into that at this point in time. I will be going out to see the boys once school starts to be able to talk with them individually to see how they're doing. But that's where I'm at this point in time, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Knuth?
I have several concerns. I have explained to this GAL on multiple occasions that the video she's referencing is not admissible in court, and therefore she should not be using it in her report if her report is for the courts. And as for her concerns about my wife, she has never met the woman. When the reason I want the psychological evaluation, it's not actually on Kimberly, it's on myself and Haley, whom Dr. Johnson, a nationally renowned psychologist, confirmed that Erin, the aunt that they're supposedly living with, was using inappropriate methods to influence the statements of children. That is why I wanted that brought up. As it proves my mental stability and that Erin should not be allowed to make decisions for my children, as she was coaching the statements of an 8-year-old before a psychological eval for a custody hearing. Okay. So I believe Erin is continuing to do those things with the boys now. Last week, I've gotten 1 phone call from each boy. The phone call I got from the older boy involved him sneaking out of the house because they didn't want him coming to see me, and he wanted to see me. I picked him up at Vancouver Mall, and we climbed the tallest peak in Clark County. So, we had a couple-hour car ride. Then we spent 6 hours hiking at altitude, where after Gunnar choosing that he wanted to stop and see my wife at her parents' house in Washougal, along with his younger sisters. Where this GAL is coming up with her information, I don't know. But I do not appreciate her slandering my wife, nor refusing to accept the fact that when you are told you are not allowed to be recording this, if you don't like what happens, the camera on the wall is on a 5-day loop inside my home. I also have concerns that I am not allowed to know where my children are. And the fact that the aunt is telling The boys, if they're not allowed to see me, the aunt should have no say in the matter. If you can't stop Kimberly from taking my boys to another county while they were enrolled in school here in Cowlitz and have lived with me for the past 7 years, then there shouldn't be a problem with the boys meeting me somewhere near their current residence to go spend a day or a weekend with me and the rest of their siblings. And the fact that this GAL is insistent there's an issue with my wife, who she has never met. My wife has no criminal history whatsoever, is currently a licensed caregiver. She keeps slandering my family, lying about things that she doesn't know, and I'm tired of it. Custodial interference, which Aaron Larimore, the aunt that Kimberly is supposedly living with, but the boys, when I ask them if they want to go do an adventure, they don't ask their mom because she's not there. She is elsewhere with Iris, the child she is trying to get custody of back because the state of Oregon took custody of Iris. According to RCW 9A.40.060, custodial interference in the first degree is a Class C felony. When I tried to bring this up in the past, you told me it was a civil matter. Why does the Washington State Law, RCW website, tell me it's a Class C felony, but people, yourself and Longview Police Department, have told me that it is a civil matter? I was under the impression that if it's listed in the RCW as a felony, it is a criminal matter, not a civil matter.
Yeah, maybe I could just address that last point, and then you can continue on with your comments. So anytime there's a concern that a law has been broken, a citizen can make a report to law enforcement, to the executive branch. So the executive branch is the executor of the law, and so they enforce the law. So if they feel that there's been a breach of that particular statute, they can do an investigation. If they feel there's an investigation that merits continuing on to criminal charges, they forward that to the prosecutor. The prosecutor files those charges. So generally in civil disputes, when there's issues related to a child care, parenting plans and the like, generally we refer to that as being civil issues. So generally that if there's not a criminal complaint that's been lodged or is being investigated or is moving forward, generally it stays in the civil court. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, and on that same basis, how do I get things handled? Because our police department is so useless that when my son was attacked at Mark Morris High School for the 3rd time in a school year by the same girl, and I took documentation from St. John's Medical Center that he got a concussion from being kicked in the back of the head by a female student while he was in an altercation because somebody else decided to put hands on him for the things that came out of his mouth. They deemed that that was not assault. They didn't trust me as a formerly internationally ranked wrestler to be able to diagnose a concussion. My son is an epileptic. They don't care. The school can't tell the difference between a grand mal and a petty mal. The police are saying, well, you didn't want to press charges. Then why did I take them a copy of his release paperwork from St. John's where he was showing signs of a concussion 8 hours after being struck in the head? The school didn't think it was an issue. The police don't think it's an issue. If it's listed as a felony, I need to know how to get it handled. I'm being told that the police won't do anything about it. You're allowing this GAL to come in and slander people she's never met. I have concerns. I need things to be handled in an appropriate manner. And she's going to slander my wife, put words in my son's mouth. I'll say that Aaron's the greatest thing ever. Why are the boys telling me they're afraid that they're going to be thrown out of where they're staying if I find out where they live? That's more of that psychological abuse, which is not what a child needs. They've lived with me for the past 7 years. Yes, they've had some issues in school. Before that, I was incarcerated for 2 years and they bounced around from relative to relative because Kimberly was not as far along in her sobriety as she is making the efforts to be now. I got out of prison after I defended her from a grown man with a baseball bat, did 18 months. I lost my daughter because Susan Clark, a judge out of Clark County, didn't want to follow that psych eval and deemed that my daughter's anxiety was more important than reuniting her with her siblings. Now, Aaron has warped her to the point where it would not be a wise choice to have Haley back in my home for more than a day at a time. I would like to get the boys put in a safe spot. If you're not willing to return them to me, please place them in foster care, because Aaron's psychological abuse is going to cause permanent, irreversible damage.
Thank you, Mr. Knuth. Ms. Bender, do you have any comment?
I do, Your Honor. My sister, Erin, Larry Moore, has had she doesn't tell the boys that they can't see her dad. She's never, ever threatened to kick them out. They're doing very good. They're happy. They're getting ready to go to school. I don't even know where this is coming from at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Knuth,
Quick question.
go ahead.
I happen to have had Odin on speakerphone in my kitchen, which has audio video recording, where the boys were told they are not allowed to come see me because of the GAL. Gunner, not a big fan of being told what to do, called me while his aunt was sleeping the next day because Kimberly had not been home to ask, and said, I'll just meet you at Van Mall. And Gunner snuck out to be with me when everybody's saying, oh, he's not allowed to do this, he's not supposed to do this. Would you be willing to accept the video, which shows me talking on a smartphone on speakerphone, where the boys are told we're not allowed to do this because Auntie said so? I'll ask my aunt. If they're not going to rely with me as a biological parent, Kimberly needs to be available at least once in a 12-hour period to ask questions like, can I go see my dad, or why can I not go see my dad? If she's not going to be present enough for that, the boys need to be removed from Aaron's care.
All right. Thank you. All right. Ms. Bender?
Boys are not in Aaron's care. They're in my care. We live with my sister at her house.
Okay.
Just to clarify that.
All right. Thanks. All right. Ms. Fellows, any comments from you?
Yes. The whole thing about slandering his wife, he is correct. I have not met his wife. That is the words that the boys use, that they do not want to see her. That's the only reason. And so requesting that if the boys were to get their belongings, that they did not want her to be there. That's it, point blank. The fact that Gunner snuck out and all that other stuff, I have not heard about that, so I will do further investigation. And so that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm in the preliminary stages at this point in time, and like I said, there's 1,141 pages of DCYF records. And that these boys, from what I saw, they were doing well. But I will be contacting them again and doing another home visit and visits with them in school.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. So I appreciate the update. Mr. Knuth, last comment?
I do have photos on my phone with me of Gunner sitting on the top of Silver Star, which is a 5,500 foot elevation peak in Clark County.
Okay. Thanks.
Taken last week.
Yeah, so maybe we just start with that. The issues related to video and pictures and the like. Generally, people can address those in one of two ways. One, sometimes people will just say, hey, I've seen a video, and they describe it with their words and they give a description to it, and they don't necessarily ask for its admission. That whether that's an alleged interaction between a father and son, or whether that's an alleged phone conversation, video conversation over phone or video phone. So parties sometimes will choose not to admit video evidence, which can be sometimes problematic for people that don't do this on a regular basis. So they just turn to their words and maybe use screenshots or something of a similar nature. So not making any rulings on that, just kind of just letting you know just a little background with that. So with the report here that's been given orally by Ms. Fellows and hearing from Mr. Knuth and Ms. Bender, it's important to note this, we're at early on in this, relatively early on in this process. There's been the report from Ms. Schaefer, and then Ms. Fellows has given just this oral report. She hasn't given anything in writing. Sounds like she's got, there's a few pages, well, hundreds of pages from DCYF that she would be digesting before finalizing her written report that would then be distributed to the parties. So at this point, this is the way I see the case, is that right now where the boys are at, I know Mr. Knuth has some serious concerns related to Aunt Erin or Erin, where the boys are living in her home with Miss Bender. He's concerned for manipulation and psychological manipulation. And so that's something that will need to have further input from both parties and also the guardian ad litem. He has concerns about, as he terms it, slander or maligning of his wife. Ms. Fellows indicates that this is the information that she received from the boys. What we do know is that the indication, at least from the boys, through via Ms. Fellows, is that they're doing fine at the home of where Ms. Bender lives, and that there's the phone calls. I think that's been clarified who initiates that phone call. At this point, it's the boys who will be initiating the phone calls, and they can do that. And that there's a recommendation for a domestic violence evaluation with collateral input from the guardian ad litem. And then also the access, sounds like everybody's agreed on the access to granting that to the guardian ad litem to look at that third-party custody case out of Clark County. So I don't have any issues with that. That sounds fine. Provides a more perspective. So right now there's a kind of a temporary stopgap measure in place that the order allows for Ms. Bender to have custody of the children and Mr. Knuth to have a phone contact with the boys up to 2 times a week, with the boys initiating the phone calls. I think I'm going to leave that in place until we get more information from the guardian ad litem, the sealed access, the psychological evaluation related to Mr. Knuth and the older daughter, Haley, so that can be internalized. And then the domestic violence, I think that evaluation, I think that's appropriate given the information that I've heard from the parties today. So Mr. Knuth, I'll require a domestic violence evaluation, and then you'd submit that to the court and send a copy to the guardian ad litem, and then you'd be expected to follow through with any recommendations from that evaluator. And then at this point, until we get further information, I'm going to leave the boys where they're at. I'll order that they remain in the custody of the mother with those 2 times per week phone calls with dad and the boys initiating that. So at this point, that's kind of where we're at until we get more information, or if the parties feel that there's a dramatic change and then a motion could be brought. Mr. Knuth.
The mother needs to be involved, and as we are 6 weeks into these phone visits, and I've gotten 1 call from each boy.
Mm-hmm. Would a set schedule be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a proposed kind of dates and times?
I would really like to see it be the way I thought your original order was.
Okay. What's that?
3 days during the week, I get a phone call between 4 and 8 p.m.
Okay. Ms. Bender?
Like days would be appreciated.
Yeah, whether that may be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Wednesday, Friday would be.
Ms. Bender?
Yeah.
That way they're spaced out.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with that. So the phone calls will be 3 times a week, initiated by the boys, sometime between the hours of 4 to 8 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think that's good. That provides some certainty to the parties.
How do I get the RCWs to be enforced as they're written on the state's website instead of as interpreted? Because I can interpret things when Aaron gets involved in whether or not I'm allowed to see my children. That really seems like custodial interference, which is a felony, in borderline kidnapping, which in this state allows for some excessive measures to be taken.
The only response that I have for that is that the executive branch, which is the Constitution gives authority to execute the laws, that's the agency or agencies that you go through. If you feel that they're not doing their duty, not investigating appropriately, you can make complaint to the chief, their supervisors, what have
I've
you.
tried on multiple occasions to make a
Yeah.
meeting to sit down with the chief of police because I have had two different captains for Longview Police Department tell me it's not their job to enforce the RCWs.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you would like me to follow them, I need help figuring out how to enforce them. It needs to be a two-way street.
Yeah. So at this kind of for today's hearing, usually what the court will do, the court rules upon any particular motions or issues that are pending, motions that the court has jurisdiction on. So at this point, you'd have to file some type of motion, whether it's in this case or a civil case, a separate civil case involving law enforcement. Maybe it's some type of mandamus. They call it a mandamus action where there's a command for another party to do X, Y, or Z. So I'll reserve any ruling on that until there's a motion before me.
Where would I find more information on the mandamus?
Some legal resources that you can look at. You can look at washingtonlawhelp.org. As far as other websites, there's the law library here at the county. You can check with the clerk's office, and there's great availability there. There's different treatises. There's different articles. There's access to LexisNexis, which is a catalog of all courts decisions that have been filed. It's a free library, and so you could do some research there. You can also check with Cowlitz Wahkiakum Legal Aid and check with them to see if they have any attorneys that are for free or pro bono or reduced, and then also just check in with an attorney, a private attorney. So
Your
for
Honor,
yes, Ms. Fellows.
could you put in your order that I can have access to the Clark County case sealed files? I have that cause number.
You'd share that, please.
14-3-01372-5.
And that's out of Clark.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll grant that. I'll include that within
Okay.
the ruling.
And what about the facilitation of the boys getting their belongings from Dad's house?
Let's see.
My wife will be present.
Okay. Yep. So, can you tell me why that's important that she be present?
Because the way Miss Fellows has treated me and my wife, it's for her safety.
For the safety of?
Miss Fellows is going to be in my home. My wife needs to be there to keep me on good behavior. I'm being told we're going to enforce the laws we want and not all of them.
Okay.
My little piece of land that I pay taxes on is my sanctuary. If you're going to come in my sanctuary, it will be on my rules. Plus, I've been told by multiple sources who are not professionals, it is illegal for you to require someone to leave their home.
The court has broad authority in family law cases
Use some of
to-
that authority
to
get
exclude-
Aaron to quit influencing my children.
So the court has broad authority to exclude individuals from homes, even people who are title holders to property. Say, for example, if there's a request for a no contact order where there's allegations of assault from one spouse to another spouse, and let's say spouse B is the abuser, alleged abuser, and then the court reads, after hearing from both the parties, orders spouse B, who's the title holder to that property, the court has broad authority to exclude that individual from that home and up to 1,000 feet or any geographical distances. So the court does have authority to exclude individuals from property, even though you're a title holder, tax-paying citizen. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody.
My wife has yet to commit a crime in her life. Therefore, no one has a protection order against her. And even Kimberly looked rather confused when Miss Fellows was stating that the boys didn't want to be around my wife.
Okay.
I'm sure they'd like to get a hold of her cooking again.
Ms. Fellows, why do you feel it's important that Miss Aaron not be present during the collection?
Ashley.
It was
Ashley.
both, it was both boys' adamant requests that she not be present in the home. They don't want to be around her, and they feel that she has been an instigator in some of the instances in the home. So it was just a request to try to facilitate this. Dad wanted the boys to come to the home to get their stuff. So just to make it easier and things like that, to try to help facilitate things, asking that she not be present is what the boys have requested, and they don't want to be around her.
Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for your input. Just give me just one moment. Okay. So as far as the boys retrieving their belongings, I think that's appropriate. And I think the stepmother, she can be present, but only observe. I think that's okay. She can be there. She can be present. And I'm also going to require that law enforcement be present. I think just given the comments here today, I think that would be appropriate. Let's schedule a time that needs to happen by kind of a deadline. I'll set a deadline of October 31st. The parties will need to coordinate a date and time along with the availability of law enforcement to be present. So that's the ruling. So the boys will stay with the mother for now. The phone calls will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 to 8 p.m. Phone calls initiated by the boys. Mr. Knuth will get the domestic violence evaluation and follow up with any recommended treatment. The guardian ad litem will have access to the Clark County cause number. The boys will retrieve their belongings as I just stated. So I'll draft that into an order and file that. And if you'd like me to email it, I can email it to all three parties.
I would, along with resources, because the domestic violence thing, I need, if I'm not provided with information on where to get it, it will not be done while my children are with Aaron.
Okay.
If you provide me with a location, call this person and make arrangements, as we did with Miss Fellows, I will do it. Otherwise, I have more important things to do, like figuring out how to remove my children from an unsafe environment.
Yeah, that makes sense to get the information. So I'll ask Ms. Fellows if she can provide 2 or 3 local providers and provide that information to Mr. Knuth.
Okay, I can provide that information to him.
Email or US mail as far as receiving a copy of today's ruling, Ms. Bender? Email. Let me just double check if those are here filed. Oh, let's see here. I was just looking to see if I had a copy of those emails. It was probably just as quick for you to tell me what those are. So I'll hear from Ms. Bender, your email address. I'll get that out to hopefully by the party's end of today. If not, latest will be Monday.
Your Honor, with the DV evaluation, can you include collateral contact with the GAL? And I would like to be able to include that video from June of 2023.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll get that out to the parties. That'll conclude the hearing for today. Thank you for your input. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks.
Your Honor, that video was specifically deemed back in the day when Longview Police and Child Protective Service investigated, it was deemed not admissible.
So yeah, it's an important point to discuss. The admissibility in a court proceeding is different than admissibility or information in which an expert uses to come to a particular conclusion. There's a lot of information that experts intake, absorb, use that isn't necessarily evidence within a particular hearing. So it's not necessarily admissible into the hearing. It's a piece of evidence that they use to come to a particular opinion. And so that's
it's not admissible for a reason. It needs to be thrown out.
It
can't
being
be modified.
Yeah, it's not being admitted. Nobody's making a motion to have it admitted as evidence in this court proceeding. So, for example, if say somebody wanted to have this pen admitted into evidence, they'd make a motion and then it'd be filed in the court file and it'd be in the court file. The video is not being admitted. It's not being submitted to the court file. It's being considered by an expert who will then use that information and other information to come to an opinion, and they'll make that recommendation to the court. So So I'm allowing that. Ms. Bender, last item.
Was there another court date? I think I missed that.
I don't think there is.
Okay.
So if there any dramatic changes occur, the parties can certainly note it up for a motion. Otherwise, we're going to be kind of in wait mode until Ms. Fellow completes her report, which she would file and then notify the parties and provide a copy. At that time, if the parties would like to file a motion, you could file a motion for the next step. Okay. All right. That'll conclude things. Thanks.